The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution stands as a testament to the foresight and wisdom of our founding fathers. It declares, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." This amendment, ratified in 1791, was born out of a deep understanding of history and human nature. The Founding Fathers, having just overthrown an oppressive government, recognized the inherent right of individuals to defend themselves, their families, and their liberties. They understood that an armed citizenry served as a crucial deterrent to tyranny and a safeguard against both foreign and domestic threats. The Second Amendment is not merely a historical artifact. It is a living, breathing principle that remains as relevant today as it was over 2 centuries ago. The right to bear arms is fundamental to the preservation of freedom and the maintenance of a just and equitable society. It empowers individuals to protect themselves from criminals, deter crime, and resist oppression. It is a cornerstone of American liberty, a testament to our belief in individual responsibility, and a lasting symbol of our commitment to self-reliance. The Second Amendment is not a privilege granted by the government, it is an inherent right endowed by our Creator, and its importance cannot be overstated. Throughout history, the most horrific acts of oppression have been perpetrated by governments upon their own people. From the Holocaust to the Rwandan genocide, the Cambodian killing fields to the Soviet gulags, the annals of history are replete with examples of government-sanctioned violence against unarmed populations. The Founding Fathers understood this dark side of human nature and sought to create a system of government that would prevent such atrocities from occurring on American soil. The Second Amendment serves as a bulwark against tyranny by ensuring that the people retain the means to resist government overreach. It is a stark reminder to those in power that their authority is not absolute and that the people have the inherent right to defend themselves against oppression. An armed citizenry is a deterrent to tyranny because it forces the government to consider the potential consequences of its actions. It makes it far more difficult for a government to engage in widespread oppression when it knows that the people have the means to defend themselves. The Second Amendment is not a guarantee against tyranny, but it is a powerful deterrent. It is a statement of principle that the American people will not tolerate oppression and that they retain the right to resist tyranny by force, if necessary. The right to bear arms is a fundamental safeguard against the abuse of power and a testament to our belief in the importance of individual liberty. It is a reminder that the government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed, and that the people retain the ultimate authority over their own destiny. The right to self-defense is a natural right, inherent in all human beings. It is the right to protect oneself from harm, to resist aggression, and to preserve one's life and liberty. The Second Amendment recognizes and protects this fundamental right by ensuring that individuals have the means to defend themselves against criminals and other threats. In a perfect world, there would be no need for self-defense. However, we live in a world where crime exists, and individuals have a right to protect themselves and their families from harm. The Second Amendment empowers individuals to exercise this right by providing them with the means to deter crime and defend themselves against violent attackers. It recognizes that the government cannot be everywhere at all times, and that individuals must have the ability to protect themselves when law enforcement is not immediately available. The right to self-defense is particularly important for vulnerable populations, such as women, the elderly, and those who live in high-crime areas. These individuals are often targeted by criminals because they are perceived as easy targets. The Second Amendment empowers these individuals to protect themselves by providing them with the means to deter crime and defend themselves against attackers. It is a crucial safeguard against violence, and a testament to our belief in the importance of individual safety and security. Opponents of the Second Amendment often argue that gun ownership leads to increased crime and violence. However, the statistical evidence paints a very different picture. Numerous studies have shown that gun ownership actually deters crime and that areas with higher rates of gun ownership tend to have lower rates of violent crime. For example, a study by the National Institute of Justice found that gun ownership by victims is associated with lower injury rates in violent crimes. Another study by the Cato Institute found that right-to-carry laws, which allow citizens to carry concealed handguns, are associated with lower violent crime rates. These studies demonstrate that gun ownership can be an effective deterrent to crime, and that criminals are less likely to target individuals whom they believe may be armed. The statistical evidence clearly shows that gun ownership does not lead to increased crime and violence. In fact, the opposite is true. Gun ownership deters crime and makes communities safer. The Second Amendment is not a threat to public safety, it is a safeguard against crime and violence. Section 5. Debunking the myths. Opponents of the Second Amendment often rely on myths and misconceptions to advance their agenda. They argue that the Second Amendment is outdated, that it only applies to militias, and that it does not protect an individual's right to own guns for self-defense. These arguments are simply not true. The Second Amendment is not outdated. The right to bear arms is as relevant today as it was over 2 centuries ago. The fundamental principles of self-defense, deterrence of tyranny, and the preservation of liberty are timeless and enduring. The Second Amendment does not apply only to militias. The Supreme Court has repeatedly affirmed that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to own guns for self-defense, unconnected to militia service. The arguments against the Second Amendment are based on a misinterpretation of history and a misunderstanding of the Constitution. The Founding Fathers clearly intended the Second Amendment to protect an individual's right to bear arms for self-defense, and the Supreme Court has upheld this interpretation. The Second Amendment is not a relic of the past. It is a living, breathing principle that remains essential to the preservation of our freedoms. Section 6. The Second Amendment, a bulwark against oppression. The Second Amendment is not just about self-defense against criminals, it is also about deterring government overreach and protecting against tyranny. The Founding Fathers understood that power corrupts and that governments can become tyrannical if they are not held in check. They believed that an armed citizenry was essential to preventing the government from becoming too powerful and oppressive. The Second Amendment serves as a constant reminder to those in power that their authority is not absolute. It is a deterrent to tyranny because it makes it far more difficult for a government to engage in widespread oppression when it knows that the people have the means to defend themselves. The Second Amendment is a safeguard against the abuse of power and a testament to our belief in the importance of individual liberty. The Second Amendment is a cornerstone of American liberty, a testament to our belief in individual responsibility and a lasting symbol of our commitment to self-reliance. It is a right that has been fiercely defended by generations of Americans, and a right that continues to be essential to the preservation of our freedoms. Section 7. Safeguarding our future. The Second Amendment is not just about protecting the present, it is also about safeguarding our future. The right to bear arms is a legacy that we must pass on to future generations. It is a guarantee that our children and grandchildren will inherit the same freedoms that we enjoy today. The Second Amendment is under constant attack by those who seek to disarm the American people. They use fear-mongering, misinformation, and emotional appeals to advance their agenda. They argue that guns are the problem and that the only way to stop gun violence is to ban guns altogether. These arguments are not only wrong, they are dangerous. We must stand firm in our defense of the Second Amendment. We must educate others about the importance of this right and the dangers of gun control. We must elect leaders who will uphold the Constitution and protect our Second Amendment rights. The future of our freedom depends on it. Section 8. Conclusion. An enduring legacy. The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution is an enduring legacy of freedom and liberty. It is a testament to the foresight and wisdom of our Founding Fathers, who understood the importance of an armed citizenry in deterring tyranny and safeguarding individual rights. The right to bear arms is as relevant today as it was over 2 centuries ago, and it remains a cornerstone of American liberty. The Second Amendment is not a privilege granted by the government, it is an inherent right endowed by our Creator. It is a right that empowers individuals to protect themselves, their families, and their liberties. It is a right that deters crime, resists oppression, and ensures that the government remains accountable to the people. The Second Amendment is a fundamental safeguard against the erosion of our freedoms and a guarantee that the government will never hold absolute power over its citizens. The Second Amendment is a precious legacy that we must cherish and defend. It is a right that has been fiercely defended by generations of Americans and a right that continues to be essential to the preservation of our freedoms. We must stand firm in our defense of the Second Amendment and ensure that it remains a cornerstone of American liberty for generations to come.